Hi, my name is Eneaqua Lewis. I'm with 24 River Road Tenant Association of Roosevelt Island, and I'm here to tell you the 10 steps to forming a tenant association. I was actually introduced to Tenants and Neighbors when I decided to form a tenant association in my building on Roosevelt Island. We decided to go with Tenants and Neighbors because they knew way more than us and they helped us to form our tenant association that was actually recognized by our building. So let's jump into the 10 steps. The first step is if a tenant has a problem like harassment, bad conditions, or high rents and decides to take action to address the problem. So it can just be any tenant. You don't have to have prior knowledge of a tenant association or groups or any prior knowledge to start a tenant association. You just have to be a tenant of the building. My problem was that they tried to inflate my lease. I found out that other tenants had the same problem and we formed a group. Step two, many other tenements in the building have the same problem and they begin to talk to each other. Like I said, after I realized the problem that I was having, I started talking to other tenants who I realized had the same problem. We decided to form a tenants association, which brings us to step three. The tenants decide to form a tenant association. We actually started by just meeting up in each other's apartments, doing some brainstorming, trying to identify what were the biggest problems in our building and how we could tackle that problem. Four, the tenants hold a preliminary meeting to discuss their common problems. So we decided to have those meetings in our own houses. At that time, we had a person that was actually from an older tenant association that had been shut down for many years. And she told us about tenants and neighbors. And that's actually how the introduction was done. One of the tenants in the building already knew about the organization, and they gave us the number, we called, and the rest was history. Tenants and neighbors kind of helped us along in the process to keep going. Step five, the tenants who came to the first meeting knock on doors of other tenants in the building to find neighbors who want to join them in forming a tenant association. The people that we had spoke to, we actually decided to make that our group. So it's about five or six of us. And we did go around and knock on doors just to try and see if other people wanted to get involved with our tenant association, or just to inform people that we were creating a tenant association and how they could be involved if they wanted to or ask questions. Six, the tenants who are organizing the tenant association find volunteers who want to serve as officers in the tenant association. Then they post flyers announcing the election date and time and the names of the tenants who are interested in running for office. For us, it was pretty simple. We had already knocked on doors and we knew who wanted to be a part of it and who didn't. So the people that decided to ultimately be a part of it, we held a meeting with all of the tenants in the building, at least the ones that showed up, and they voted us in. So we were actually voted in. We have a vote every 2 years to keep it fair and to see if other people want to join the tenant association. Or some people sometimes just decide that it's not for them, or it's too much of an obligation. Okay, seven. The tenants hold elections in a public place for the officers of the tenant association, and that's where the officers are elected. For us, we were able to secure the community room in our building, and that's where all of the tenants of the building met. We held our election, and that's how we voted in our tenant association. Luckily for us, our management did initially let us use the community room. Most times you can just ask your management and they will let you. They're supposed to let you because it is your right to have a tenant association. Otherwise, you can like kind of just meet in the lobby because they cannot stop you as long as it's peaceful. The tenant association officers decide when and where the tenant association should meet and how the decisions should be made. They create bylaws formalizing these decisions. Tenants and neighbors helped us to create our bylaws and to formalize a plan that would be beneficial to our building and to our tenants. For us, it was very important to have bylaws that aligned with our issues and concerns in our building. So for us, we started out by writing down how long we wanted our officers to hold office, whether or not we would collect donations, when and where we would have our meetings, who would be our proctor for the meetings, how many people would be in the meetings, how we would spread the word for the meetings, how we would fund spreading the word for the meetings, and how often we have elections. So tenants and neighbors were able to give us a good outline, point us in the right direction, and then we basically created our bylaws from the outline that was given to us by tenants and neighbors. We still use our bylaws. We go over them every few months, maybe every 2 to 3 months, to make sure that they still align with the issues and concerns of our building. And I think that if it was not for tenants and neighbors, we wouldn't have had a clear understanding or even an outline to go from. Step 9. The tenant association leadership holds regular general membership meetings to decide the priorities of the tenant association. Through the feedback of the other tenants, they create a chart of short-term and long-term goals, and they plan their strategies and tactics for achieving these goals. The tenant association leadership coordinates the ongoing work of the tenant association. One of our goals, which is still our main goal, has always been to tackle electricity and the high prices. When you form your tenants association, there will be a common issue or concern within your building, and that probably would be something that you can use to strategize around. That's what we did. We took our biggest problem and basically we broke it up into little problems, and that's how we were able to tackle many different issues within our building. Because if you have a big problem, most likely it resulted from smaller problems adding up. Step 10. The tenant association leadership continuously revisits the bylaws and holds regular elections. We revisit our bylaws every few months. We have regular meetings with our tenants every month. Notwithstanding the coronavirus, we've been having them maybe every 2 months through Zoom. But before this all happened, we were having it every month. We were going over the bylaws with the tenants. And as I said before, we hold regular elections every 2 years to keep the board fresh, have new faces, and just to keep the tenant association going. A big part of us being able to organize was having the help of tenants and neighbors, because after our initial election, our management decided, well, they're not a real tenant association. We don't have to respect them, and we're not going to. We're not going to give them the community room anymore. Tenants and neighbors actually helped us to uh, they helped us to communicate to management and prove to them that we actually were a legitimate tenants association, and that it was our right to hold meetings in the community room. So they actually helped us. They went to a meeting with management. They set up a meeting with us with management to discuss everything. And since then, that was maybe 2, 3 years ago. Since then, we haven't had a problem with them renting out the community room to us. Um, I think that as a tenant association, you're always going to have the problem with communication with management, because that's why you actually started the tenant association, because there was a lack of communication, most likely. But as a tenant association, there going to constantly be challenges that come up that you will have to communicate with management to solve those problems. And basically, that's what we do. We still work with tenants and neighbors. They are our allies. We're able to call anyone in the office. They're there to push you forward, to guide you, to assist you, and to point you in any direction that you need to go.